for the OLCC 2024 Alcohol, Housekeeping, and excuse me, Technical Rules Package. Just before we get started, a few administrative things. The camera that we are using in our conference room is sort of going in and out. So we are here, there we are, but it might sort of flash in and out. So just an FYI, but I believe everyone can hear. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this morning's meeting. My name is Nicole Blase, and I'm the Rules Coordinator for the OLCC. Today's meeting is being recorded. For those that are joining us virtually, please ensure that your phone or your computer is muted unless you are speaking. Only invited committee members will be a part of today's conversation. Members were selected due to their level of interest or position within the community. With that in mind, we ask that each of you serve as goodwill ambassadors to the discussion so that you may represent your constituency professionally. Please be courteous to other committee members so that we don't have multiple participants at once. Sounds like there's an echo.
Sorry, that was me.
Again, please mute your speakers. Thank you. You may use the raise hand function in Teams, or if you are calling in, please interject when appropriate and we will call on you in order. Non-committee members will be able to tender comments during the public hearing and during the public comment period. Committee members, please state your first and last name when you are making a comment for the record. All right, let's get started. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd at approximately 9:03 a.m. Many of you are familiar with the rulemaking process, but for those of you who have not yet had the opportunity, or for those listening in, I will begin by saying a few words about rulemaking and the purpose of advisory committee meetings. The purpose of an advisory committee is to increase the public's involvement in the drafting and development of administrative rules. The Oregon Legislature, through its enactment of the Administrative Procedures Act, ORS Chapter 183, stresses the critical importance of the public's participation in policy development. Advisory committees are an excellent way to solicit input from internal and external stakeholders who are likely to be impacted by the development or amendment of agency policy and rule. Consequently, advisory committee invitees may include licensees, permittees, industry representatives, OLCC staff, members of law enforcement, local government, the public, local community organizations, small businesses, and other interested stakeholders. The purpose of having all of the members on this committee today is to hear from different parts of the industry and public health and safety partners. The Commission strives to hear from all interested parties. Our role today will be to explain the background and context of these rules and the changes that are being proposed in this package. We will provide facilitation to ensure that all committee members can provide input today. During this morning's meeting, we will seek your input on the proposed amendments to the 2024 Alcohol, Housekeeping, and Technical Rules Package. The Oregon Legislature passed House Bill 4138 during the 2024 Oregon legislative session, which has several provisions that require agency rulemaking to implement. At the same time, the Cannabis and Alcohol Management Program that we are calling CAMP is being configured for alcohol licensing and service permits. Further, the agency must also undertake rulemaking to respond to changes within the industry. The topics which require OLCC rulemaking are alcohol licensing service permit requirements, alcohol licensing service permit designee implementation, temporary service permit implementation, and service permit renewals. Under Oregon Public's meeting law, this meeting is open to the public, and members of the public are free to observe our discussion but may not offer comments. The agency will digitally record this advisory committee meeting and will produce and circulate a record of our discussion. We will now move on to introductions. I will be calling on you to introduce yourself. Please state your name and the organization you are representing. I'll start with myself and OLCC staff. Again, my name is Nicole Blase, and I am the Rules Coordinator for the OLCC. I'll turn it over to Janet or Nicole to start.
Shannon Hoffeditz, Interim Director of Licensing.
Nicole Mitchell, currently working in a hybrid of marijuana licensing technician and liquor policy analyst.
Melanie Mundial, Director of Administrative Hearings.
Chris Boston, Liquor Licensing Assistant Manager for the OLCC.
Amanda Borick, I'm Director of Education Policy and Health at OLCC.
Good morning, I'm Osimo, Public Health Policy Analyst at OLCC.
Six or no. Do we have any other OLCC staff joining us virtually today?
I'm here. This is Susan Redberg, liquor license technician.
Thanks, Susan. Meredith?
Good morning. I'm Meredith King, also a liquor licensing technician.
Randy and Heidi?
Randy Hancock, I'm the alcohol compliance technician, sorry.
And I'm Heidi Anderson, the liquor licensing manager.
Thanks, Heidi. All right, I'll start with the RAC members that I received RSVPs from this morning. Greg Astley.
Good morning, everyone. Greg Astley, Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association.
Thanks, Greg. Danelle Romaine.
Good morning, Danelle Romaine with the Oregon Beer and Wine Distributors Association.
Thanks, Danelle. Joe Buck. All right, Luis Pimentel.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Luis Pimentel. I am with Lane County Public Health.
Thanks, Luis. Connors.
That's Connors McMenamin, and I'm here with McMenamin's Group Budgeting.
Thank you. Kari Koch.
My name is Carrie Coe, and I'm with the City of Portland.
I apologize. Thank you, Carrie. Earl Kramer Brown. Steve Caldwell. Jose Gonzalez.
Jose Gonzalez with La Familia Cider.
Thanks, Jose. Reynaldo Maestas. Ryan Fahey.
Ryan Fahey, Spirit Mountain Casino.
Thanks, Ryan. Adrian Shaw. Emily Jensen. Celeste Medina.
Good morning. I'm Emily Jensen. I'm founder of Thinking True Spirits and now Senior Director for National Growth for Control States for Heritage Distilling Company.
Thanks, Emily. Celeste Medina. And Annie Dillon.
Annie Dillon with Oregon Health Authority.
Thanks. Are there any other invited RAC members that have not introduced themselves that are joining us virtually today? All right. Oh, yes. Evan.
Yeah, Evan Sether, Captain of the Oregon State Police Patrol Division.
Great. Thank you, Evan. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn things over to Chris Boston, who's going to get us started on the summary of our rule proposals today.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, I will just go through each rule, read out the rule and read out the, at least not word for word of the changes as we go until we get to maybe more technical ones. And then I'll need somebody to help me if there's someone that has a question.
Sure.
Necessarily see.
And just really quickly before you start, Chris, for those who are joining us virtually, this is a larger package, so we are going to try to get through all of the rules in numeric order as best as we can. If you do have a question, please feel free to ask, but we would like to try to keep the bulk of the questions and comment and discussion for after we're able to get through the rules, just to make sure that we can. So we'll get started. Go ahead, Chris.
All right, starting with Division 5, Rule 84500500304, local government recommendations. The change to this is to modify the language about acceptable formats the local government recommendation is on. Rule 84500500311. This one this one is not one I'm an SME on for the change.
Trying to find the subsection of that was added in. This rule is being amended just to clarify and update what what constitutes a financial interest in a licensed business. And it basically says any person who sells or intends to sell personal property to a licensee or applicant for use in the business, and the licensee or applicant is obligated to make installment payment to the seller until the balance of the purchase process is paid in full. And this is being added so that our administrative hearings division has the opportunity to request more information, and if there needs to be an investigation, whether or not someone has a financial interest in a business. So just clarifying that would constitute one having a financial interest in business. Any questions on that?
All right, rule 845-005-0320, license refusal reason that can be overcome. This is implementing a section of House Bill 4138 that makes service permit a requirement for licensees that have a license that has consumption as part of their privileges, on-premises consumption as part of their privileges, and also establishes the alternative method of meeting that requirement by establishing a separate service permit designee. Rule 845-005-0325, which is license refusal reasons applicant qualifications. This is change this one.
It was just it's a technical fix, updating the statutory reference to the marijuana. Formerly used to be ORS 475B, and it's just changing it to 475C, which is the current.
845-005-0332 tour boat license. This is a technical fix on the current format of the OLCC law orientation for retailers requirements, as well as language to account for the change in the service permit requirement for licensees and the service permit designee. In two sections, it's doing the same thing because there's two things for that whole thing. All right, rule 845-005-0355, restricting license privileges and conduct of operations. This adds language to account for the addition of temporary service permits. Rule 845-005-0360, license renewal requirement for applicants. This is a technical fix to account for how our new online system will operate with renewals and how licenses remain active after a license renewal application is submitted. This is closer in line with statute 183.430. There is also a technical fix relating to allowing for authorized representative as adding the language in as part of facilitating a license renewal, and the adjustment as well regarding the format of local government recommendations as it pertains to renewals.
Adding the authorized representative was helpful. I think it's helpful. Yeah, that's fair.
Rule 845-005-03 0365, change of licensee, change of location, and now change of service permit designee. This rule is just outlines language for the requirement to inform us and update us when there is a change to service permit designees. Rule 845-005-0428, retail on premises distilled spirits sampling involving distillery representative. And this is just adding language to account for temporary service permits. I'm going to be saying that a lot. All right, 845-005-0440, temporary sales licenses. This will add language to account for temporary sales temporary service permits. It also will has some technical fixes to account for an online application submission process with our new system. And adjust languages on times when a temporary sales license applicant may waive the requirement of a service permit, holding into package sales and removing extra language about being able to take a server education course and test outside of an actual service permit. All right, rule 845-005-0450.
This rule pertains to standards for issuing a temporary authority to operate in the circumstances where there has been a death of a licensee or a bankrupt business. And the changes being made because of the reading of the rule was confusing in some circumstances. So removing that insolvent or bankrupt language, it makes it easier to understand. And the other change amendment is allowing, when the initial temporary authority to operate is issued, allowing that to be issued for the remainder of the license term versus just limiting it to a 60-day period.
The initial one will still be extended.
Yeah.
Just the first one was limiting and being only 60 days for the initial. 845, we're moving on to division 6, rule 845-006-0335. Age verification, minors on a licensed premises. And if I'm correct, this is just implementing language to account for there being a temporary service permit. Rule 845-006-0345, prohibited conduct. Adding in language to account for a temporary service permit. 845-006-0350, service permittee required reporting of trafficking and unlawful employment of minors. This also just implements language for a temporary service permit. Rule 845-006-0392, requirements for delivery of manufacturer sealed and securely covered containers of wine and cider to a final consumer. I believe this also just implements the accounting for a temporary service permit as well. I think there's any other changes. That's the last change. No. Rule 845-006-0396, requirements for delivery of manufacturer sealed and securely covered containers of malt beverages to a final consumer. Same thing, accounting for a temporary service permit. Rule 845-006-0399, sale of mixed drinks and single servings of wine by full on-premises sales licensees for off-premises consumption and delivery to a final consumer. This implements Counts for the implementation of a temporary service permit.
Oh, Chris, it looks like we have a hand up. Emily.
Yeah, my question was, will there be a moment where that one in particular is of great interest to me? And I'm assuming I'm kind of going over these and then we're going to dive into them more in depth. I didn't want to interrupt you, but that one I do have a question about.
Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really affects our ability to succeed in the state of Oregon and take care of our company here in this state is we're looking to have low alcohol RTDs, spirits-based, distilled spirits-based, available for wine, just like wine and beer, grocery, retail, rather than just being in liquor store agent stores. In the state of Idaho, you can sell RTDs all the way up to 13% ABV, and they're sold all across the map. And the Oregon Distilled Spirits Guild, this is something that's really on the forefront for a lot of us, is making low-proof beverages that can be sold in stores just like wine and beer can. So just wanted to bring that to the attention of the group.
Thank you, Emily. It looks like did you have
Sorry
another?
about that.
Oh, that's
No.
okay. Okay, thank you. All right, Chris, carry on.
Rule 845-006-0428, implementing temporary service permits. Exemptions for certain tour boats is that rule. Rule 845-006-0433, mini bars and hotel guest rooms. That is accounting for implementing a temporary service permittee. I believe, isn't it? That's it for that. Okay. Rule 845-006-0434, mini bars in arena suites, accounting for the addition of temporary service permits. Rule 845-006-0446, promotional events at a retailer licensed premises involving suppliers, accounting for temporary service permits. Rule 845-006-0450, retail on premises malt beverage, wine or cider tastings involving suppliers, is also accounting for temporary service permits. Rule 845-006-0452, requirements for distilled liquor tastings provided by an Oregon distillery licensee. This accounts for temporary service permits. Rule 845-006-0462, food service requirements for off-premises events with a full or limited on-premises sales license. This brings the food requirement for full on-premises licenses applying for temporary use of annual licenses at a different location. Their food requirement to be more in line with special events. In the past, they have been required to have 5 meal items, whereas other special event applicants, whether TSLs or special events for special events of other types that allow for distilled spirit servants, have only been required to have 3 meal options. So for full on-premises licenses, this change is to change the requirement to 3 meals in line with other special events. Rule 845-006-0500, suspensions and civil penalties. This accounts for temporary service permits. Adding, and specifically, just because this one's a little bit more important, specifically adding the language for civil penalties in line with treating temporary service permits exactly as a regular service permit for for violations and suspensions and civil penalties. All right, now on to Division 9, where both the changes are.
So Division 9, focusing on the temporary service permit and establishing eligibility and criteria to obtain one. 845-009-0005 deals with the service permit application requirements. Basically, it's updating to be more in line with the time, allowing for an affirmation that an individual does not have a social security number, removing the requirement for an applicant's signature based on the way camp works. Removing the proof of completion of a alcohol server education course. Clarifying that the applicant must have paid the service permit application fee. Adding temporary service permittee language. And also adding in a process. Well, first a requirement that says an applicant must not be ineligible for a service permit under the rule that we'll cover next. But subsection 8 discusses incomplete application, which allows the commission to review all of the material that an applicant has submitted and to notify the applicant if the application is incomplete prior to the issuance of a service permit. If the applicant isn't responsive, the OLCC will deem the application incomplete, and if a temporary service permit had been issued, say like automatically, that would be deemed invalid. When that occurs, the subsection 9 covers that an applicant would be notified of an incomplete application. They may submit a request to reconsider the decision of an incomplete application. It must be submitted within 2 calendar days of having received the notice, or the application will be inactivated. Commission will give the applicant the opportunity to be heard if the application is inactivated, but this is not subject to a contested case hearing. So basically it's more an informal process that doesn't require, the issuance of a notice and an administrative hearing. It's just more of an informal process that the agency can use.
Nicole, it looks like we have a question from Greg Astley.
Thank you. It says an applicant will be notified in writing. Does that mean mail? Does that mean email? Is there a distinction that needs to be made there?
That would be a notification received from their account. They would be required to go through our camp system to apply for the permit. So it would be in writing, and that they would receive an email notification.
Okay, thank you.
How would business know if a permittee, if it was repealed?
That's a great question. So how would a business know whether or not a temporary service permit was
They hand us the temporary
invalid.
service permit, we think it's great, now it's deemed invalid. The service permit gets that notice, but the business obviously doesn't.
Yeah, and Chris could probably go into more details of how that feature would look like in camp, but I believe that it would be a mechanism for a business to go online and check the validity of the permit.
Yes, right now with camp, since there's no requirement for a roster of permittees to be tracked in the system, there wouldn't be an automatic notification. There will be verification tools that are manually done through the campsite that are going to be made available to verify, but it's only going to be a verifying as you're looking at it at that time. For service permit designees, there might be a separate process of an information piece, but that is still being constructed, but there will be some linking of, since that's part of your licensing requirement, that will have some separate, separate steps built in for notification to the licensee regarding the status of their service permit, designee status. But for everyone else, it will be the manual notification tools and not necessarily an automated notification.
Question. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Rule 845-009-0010 discusses service permit and temporary service permit requirements. And adding in that first section, just the temporary service permit language. And also adding it in the exception. This was a change based on House Bill 4138 that just clarified condition in which the license, when waiving the service permit requirement when the licensee's primary business is not the sale or service of alcohol or food. If you scroll down, nothing new has been added there. I know that the big A, B, and C are underlined. That's just a technical error. So that language remains the same. The big change here is the service permit in subsection 3 and discussing the eligibility. So the big difference here that is going to be different from current practice is that service permittees are required now to have taken the alcohol server education course and pass the test to be eligible to work under a temporary service permit. And so to be eligible, they will have to have completed the application described in the rule that we just went over with the fee. They will have had to submit proof of the course, having taken the course and having passed the test. The other piece that would make them ineligible is that they can't have any other pending service permit applications or temporary service permits that have been issued or renewal application. We just want to keep it to having one valid either application or active permit. The other piece that makes an applicant ineligible for a temporary permit is if they've been refused a service permit or temporary service permit, if it's been revoked within 3 years of the date that the commission received the current application. And that's just basically if the applicant had gone through the process and had their service permit or temporary service permit revoked, we don't want them to immediately be able to apply for a temporary and be issued that for a period of time. Section 3, small b.
We have one question. I apologize just quickly. It doesn't make specific note on like no other pending service permits or temporary service permits. We have a lot of employees that work in Vancouver and in Portland. I'm assuming this is just in regards to Oregon.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good distinction, yeah. Section 3, small b, the applicant will be notified when the temporary service permit is issued. It will be valid. So it's a small subsidy, notwithstanding the prior rule that we discussed with what is a complete application. A temporary service permit is valid until the date the applicant is issued or denied a permit. And that subsection, Chris, can you scroll back up just that we.
To 205 subsection 8.
Yeah. Okay, scroll back in. So that's still not the.
Left off.
So I'm guessing that that is just, it has to be deemed a valid and completed application.
Yeah, that's saying that it lasts until we make a decision on the service permit application. Unless we have to inactivate we render we review the application and see that it's incomplete and have to inactivate in that method.
Thank you. And so temporary service permits are subject to the same revocation criteria as the service permit. And service permit is valid for a period of 5 years from the date of issuance of a service permit. If a temporary service permit is issued prior to issuance of the service permit, the 5-year period includes the time frame in which the temporary service permit is held. So it's not going to be an extension of time. If someone is operating on a temporary service permit for 6 months, they're not going to get 5 years and 6 months. It would just refer back. So it'll be 5 years. And the rest is just removing language. Rule 845-009-0015, licensee and authorized person's responsibility for verifying identification. This adds temporary service permit to the rule and removes the language, just which is the current practice of allowing an applicant to work without a permit if these conditions are met. And so because we're replacing that with temporary service, having being required to have a temporary service permit, this language is no longer applicable. So Rule 845-009-0020, service permit denial and cancellation criteria. Just adding in language that the commission may cancel a temporary service permit.
You have a part here,
Which one?
removing the licensed medical.
Oh, yeah. So under 7A, there's a section about what will be, I'm just orienting myself to the section here. When somebody is denied a temporary or denied a service permit, we go through the denial bases, which have to do with court compliance or having certain kind of conviction. They can basically show some, they can be allowed to still get that permit if they can overcome that denial basis based on meeting the criteria under subsection 7. Sub A, we're taking out the reference to needing to have written proof from a licensed medical professional. We're just taking out the word license there. They just need to have written proof that a medical professional diagnosis. And this is in line with how most people are getting treatment these days and getting actual diagnoses or those things from the facilities through their probation, parole, those types of things. They aren't licensed medical professionals, but they are medical professionals that are doing these diagnoses. We're just making more in line with current.
Section 8 is being added to say that when the commission proposes to deny a service permit application, that the applicant may not withdraw the application. This is just to close the loop so that they just can't continue working and say, oh, I'm withdrawing my application and then immediately apply for a temporary permit. Would then make them ineligible for a period of 3 years because there'd be a final order on it, or we can use it then to say that you're not eligible for a temporary service permit. 845-009-0075 is being repealed. This is language that is no longer applicable because of the requirements for a temporary service permit.
This is repealed because of the licensing requirement of a permit replaces this.
Yes, so a licensee being required to have a temporary permit, a service permit at the time of application. Yep. Well, 845-009-0080 extension and exemptions is also being repealed.
This is for the same reasons. There's a few rules that are duplicates of requirements for server education for licensees and then a separate rule for permittees. Since licensees due to House Bill 4138 is removing education requirement for licensee and replacing with a permit requirement, the rules that establish an education relationship direct to licensee without a permit are being repealed, as the permit ones will still apply. That goes for this rule, and I think another one as well. The next two.
Okay, so 845-009-0085, the examination, licensees and license application, and 845-009-0090, oral option are being repealed for the reasons Chris just stated. 845-009-0100, service permittee requirements and renewal requirements. So this is just adding in language about submitting the service permit application to the commission and paying the appropriate fees in section 6 of this rule. And updating the language to remove denying the application to and inactivating the application if the applicant has not completed the course and passed the exam within the 45-day limit, unless the commission has approved a hardship extension further described in this rule, and that's still included in the statute, so we have to allow for it here. Section 5, service permit renewal. It's just clarifying that they must be renewed every 5 years. They have to submit a renewal application and pay the fees. They have to complete the server education course. They still may have completed the course anytime within 2 years before their service permit expires to then be able to renew the application without having to take it at the time of renewal. It would still count. The renewal applications will be reviewed in accordance with the rules we've just reviewed. Section 5, small e, states that the commission issues the temporary service permit for the renewal application. It is effective no earlier than the first date after the expiration of the prior permit. And when it approves a renewal application, the new service permit will be effective no earlier than the first date after the expiration of the prior permit. And this is just to not have multiple applications or permit, just one. Subsection 6 removes some language discussing the fees. The fee is going to be the same. I know it doesn't include it in there, but we'll have to include it in there. So told that it's going to be the same. On. Rule 845-009-0105, the examination, service permittees, and service permit application, verifying the commission that's actually issuing the exam. Technical things. Did you scroll down?
Yes, what I.
Oh.
Oh. Hold on.
I think it froze.
Yeah, probably what happened. Oh, I got your off. Hold on.
So sub 4, if the applicant doesn't take the exam within 45 days of their application, the application will be deemed incomplete. Rule 845-009-0115, service or server education hearings, service permittees and applicants. Just removing the word license. Rule 845-009-0150, approved accelerated training programs, just adding in temporary service permit. Oh. I did see there was a comment in the chat. Emily said, I'd like to make a request. We amend the rule requiring distilleries provide food for liquor store sampling. The Oregon Distillers Guild is unanimous. Large overreach, please avail.
Emily, did you have any follow-up on your comment or anything you'd like to add?
No, I just, that one just surprised me. And as I was going back and reading it through, it feels really inappropriate for us to provide a food option in liquor stores when we're doing quarter samplings, which often rarely they're only 1 or 2 in a liquor store.
All right, thanks, Emily.
Mhm. It would prohibit a lot of business if that was to be the case.
All right, unless staff has anything else, I think we're probably ready to open it up for questions, general discussion, comments, concerns.
Can I add something?
Sure, Shannon, go ahead.
Shannon Hoffeditz, Interim Director of Licensing. The one thing that I do want to add regarding the implementation of the service permit requirements is we're looking to align them with the camp launch so that it doesn't interfere with the current system and it would coincide with the launch of camp to make it very easy, well, you know, the industry to align with the new rule.
And phase 3 is currently scheduled
February 10th
for the map, yeah.
for a service permit. And we're, yeah.
All right, I will open the floor for our RAC members. Anybody virtually or in person? Any specific rules you'd like to discuss? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, anybody online or otherwise have comments or anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll talk more about RTDs. Straight up, like that's a big one for our industry. The the ready-to-drink cocktail movement and low-proof options for people is a huge part of our industry. And for craft distillers, we're currently now the largest conglomeration of craft distillers nationwide. We just surpassed Kentucky. So, you know, being the third largest generator of revenue for the state as in alcohol, like for us to be able to have the same rights as wine and beer for a lower proof product to be sold in grocery stores is for us, it's an equity no brainer in comparison with other states. And we're hoping that that can be amended.
Emily, thank you for your comments. But for this rules advisory committee, we're just going to be sticking to the actual rules that are proposed at the time. But thanks for your comments.
Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns about the rules that we are discussing today?
I know some of these are in line with new camp transition, but how's everything been behind the scenes here at the OLCC through the transition? How has that been?
Shannon Hoffett. I would say it's been going very well. We're not really seeing a lag. I mean, kudos to the licensing team. We've heard positive feedback from the industry regarding the industry side of things. And I would say from OLCC side, it's nice to get up to date with industry and be more modern, let's say. But it's going very well, and we have not really seen a slow in processing anything. If anything, it's going to help speed things up. We're going to get better as we move along. I think kudos to Chris was a big part of that on the staff side, but it's been going very well for us.
It'll replace filing cabinets for me, so.
Us too, actually.
So much paper.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no one else who would like to contribute comments or questions today, I did send out a fiscal impact statement questionnaire with the meeting materials. Are there any possible fiscal impacts for this rule package that anybody would like to discuss today while we're here?
How much time do we have to submit those?
I was just going to say, if you go home after today and find that you have something that you would like to submit or contribute, I don't want to put out a specific deadline, but the sooner the better. I would say before November 1st, if you could, but the sooner the better. Thank you. All right, going once, going twice, for anybody virtually or in person joining us for anything further on this rule package today. All right, well, on behalf of the OLCC, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, virtually and in person. A notice of public hearing will be coming out in the next couple of months. I believe we are submitting the notice in the state bulletin November 1st, and this will be going to our commission for final action in December of this year. Effective date TBD in 2025, but we will keep you guys updated as all of this goes along. So there will be more opportunity to submit testimony and public comment as well. So thank you everyone for joining us, and please contact myself or any of our staff here if you have any questions about this package. So thank you to everyone very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.